Jack Miller adjusted his tie and took a deep breath. The United Nations Hall buzzed with excitement. Today was a day that would change human history forever. The first official meeting with aliens was about to happen. "Nervous?" asked Lisa Harris, stepping up beside him. Her badge identified her as the lead xenobiologist for the American delegation. "Wouldn't you be?" Jack replied. As the U.S. ambassador to the UN, he had faced many tense situations, but nothing like this. "We're about to meet beings from another world." Lisa smiled. "Just remember what we discussed. Be polite, be careful, and don't make promises." The large doors at the end of the hall swung open. A hush fell over the crowd. The Zolaxians entered. They were tall, nearly 7 feet, with smooth blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer under the lights. Their forearms moved with grace, and their large dark eyes took in everything at once. 5 of them walked in perfect unison toward the center of the room. "They're beautiful," someone whispered. Jack nodded in agreement. The aliens were elegant, in a way he hadn't expected. Their movements were like water flowing. Peter Walsh, the military attaché standing behind Jack, leaned forward. "Too perfect," he whispered. "Nobody's that graceful naturally." The lead Zolaxian stepped forward. "People of Earth," it said in perfect English. "We are the Zolaxians. We bring greetings from the stars and wish to begin a friendship between our worlds." Applause filled the room. Jack stepped forward to deliver the official Earth response they had all agreed on. "On behalf of the people of Earth, we welcome you and look forward to peaceful relations between our worlds." The Zolaxian leader made a gesture that might have been a smile. "To mark this historic occasion, we have brought a gift," it signaled, and another alien came forward carrying a crystal container filled with pale blue liquid. "This is the wine of friendship from our home world. It is tradition among the stars to share this drink when new species meet." Servers quickly distributed small glasses of the blue liquid to all the human representatives. Jack looked at his glass with curiosity. The liquid seemed to glow slightly. Lisa studied her glass with professional interest. "Fascinating molecular structure," she murmured. "It's reacting to our atmosphere." Peter's face showed nothing, but he positioned himself so he could watch both the aliens and the humans. The lead Zolaxian raised its glass. "To new friendships across the stars." Everyone drank. Jack noticed the strange taste. Sweet at first, then slightly bitter, like nothing he had tasted before. He swallowed and smiled politely. Lisa, however, only pretended to drink. Something about the liquid had triggered her scientific caution. She noticed the Zolaxians watching carefully, seeming pleased as humans consumed their gift. The formal meeting continued for another hour, with speeches and basic cultural exchanges. Jack felt a growing sense of goodwill toward the aliens. They seemed so wise, so advanced. Earth had much to learn from them. "We should consider giving them access to our satellite network," he found himself saying to other delegates. "They could help us improve our technology." Peter Walsh frowned. Jack wasn't someone who usually gave away advantages so easily. Later that evening, as the delegates gathered for a more casual reception, Lisa pulled Peter aside. "Did you drink that blue stuff?" she asked quietly. "No," Peter admitted. "Old habit. Never consume unknown substances when on duty." "Good," Lisa said. "Something's wrong. Look at Jack and the others who drank it." Peter observed the room. Jack and most of the other officials were surrounding the Zolaxians, agreeing enthusiastically with everything they said. They seemed almost desperate to please the aliens. "They're suggesting Earth open all military files to show our peaceful intentions," Peter said, alarmed, "and our people are agreeing." "I need to analyze that wine," Lisa said. "Can you get me a sample?" Peter nodded. "Meet me in the lab in 30 minutes. While Peter secured a sample of the blue liquid, Lisa called her friend at the university lab to prepare for emergency testing. In the lab, Lisa worked quickly, running the blue liquid through various tests while Peter kept watch. "This is incredible," she said, looking at the results. "This isn't wine at all. It contains compounds that target human brain chemistry, specifically the centers for decision-making and resistance." "Mind control?" Peter asked. Not exactly. More like extreme suggestibility. It makes humans want to agree, to please. It reduces critical thinking. Peter checked his phone. The Zolaxians have just been granted permission to place observation posts in 12 major cities. This was decided 20 minutes ago. No debate, no security review. Lisa looked grim. This isn't first contact. It's an invasion, just not the kind we expected. They spent the next hour confirming Lisa's findings. The blue liquid contained a sophisticated neurotoxin designed specifically for human biology. It wouldn't kill, but it would make humans compliant and eager to cooperate. How did they know our biology so well? Peter wondered. They must have been studying us for years, Lisa replied. But there's something strange in these results. The neurotoxin binds to certain receptors in the brain, but it's showing a competitive binding pattern. What does that mean? It means something else can bind to those same receptors and block the toxin, Lisa explained. I need to figure out what. Peter's phone buzzed with an alert. The Zolaxians are requesting access to our water treatment facilities. For quality testing, they say. We need help, Lisa said. I know someone, Susan Campbell. She's a biochemist, brilliant but unconventional. If anyone can help us understand this toxin better, it's her. Can we trust her? Yes. And she practically lives on coffee. If she was at the event, I bet she didn't drink enough of the wine to be affected. Peter nodded. Call her. I'll try to slow down whatever the Zolaxians are planning. As Peter left, Lisa stared at the sample of blue liquid. Outside the window, she could see the Zolaxian ship hovering above the city, beautiful and terrifying in the night sky. They thought they could just walk in and take over, she whispered. They don't know humans very well after all. Susan Campbell's lab was not what most people expected from a top biochemist. Empty coffee cups littered the counters. Rock music played softly in the background. Notes and diagrams covered the walls. So you're telling me aliens drugged the entire UN delegation? Susan asked, peering through her microscope at the blue liquid. She took a sip from her 5th cup of coffee that morning. That's exactly what we're saying, Lisa replied. And now the Zolaxians are getting everything they want from our leaders. Peter paced the small lab. They've already secured access to our satellite system's military databases, and they're pushing for control of water treatment facilities. Susan whistled. Smart move. Control the water, control the population. She adjusted her microscope. This stuff is fascinating. It's targeting neurotransmitter pathways I've never seen anything interact with before. Lisa leaned against a counter. Can you find a way to counteract it? Maybe, Susan said. But first, I need to understand why some people seem less affected than others. You two didn't drink it, but what about people who did and still seem normal? Peter stopped pacing. Now that you mention it, General Robbins seemed pretty clear-headed at the emergency meeting this morning, and I know he had the blue wine. What's different about him? Lisa wondered. Susan tapped her coffee cup thoughtfully. Let's start interviewing people who drank but aren't showing effects. There must be a pattern. Over the next few hours, they quietly reached out to UN staff and delegates who had attended the first contact event. A picture began to emerge. Look at this, Susan said, pointing to her tablet. Everyone who remained unaffected has one thing in common. They all consumed significant amounts of caffeine before the event. Caffeine? Peter asked. Coffee, energy drinks, strong tea, Susan explained. General Robbins drinks about a gallon of black coffee daily. The British diplomat who's still arguing against the Zolaxians had 3 espressos right before the ceremony. Lisa's eyes widened. The caffeine must be blocking the receptors that the alien toxin targets. Exactly, Susan said, excitement in her voice. And look at the test results. The molecular structure of caffeine isn't just similar enough to block the receptors. It actually breaks down the alien compound when they interact. Peter's phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. The Zolaxians are calling an emergency session. They want immediate approval to install atmospheric monitoring equipment in major cities worldwide. Monitoring equipment or distribution systems for their toxin? Lisa said. Susan grabbed a clean beaker. We need to make a concentrated caffeine solution that can help those already affected. She began mixing chemicals with practiced hands. And we need to spread the word discreetly. Drink coffee, lots of it. While Susan worked, Peter used his military contacts to quietly alert trusted individuals. Lisa analyzed the Zolaxians' movements, trying to predict their next steps. "I've got it," Susan said finally, holding up a small vial of dark liquid. Super concentrated caffeine combined with compounds that will help it cross the blood-brain barrier quickly. One shot of this should clear the mind of anyone affected by the alien toxin. "How do we get it to the key people?" Peter asked. "I have an idea," Lisa said. "Jack always has coffee brought to him during long meetings. The servers know me." At EOM, the UN building, security was tight. The Zolaxians had positioned their own guards at key points. Lisa walked confidently through the lobby, carrying a tray with several coffee cups. "Delivery for Ambassador Miller," she told the guard, who waved her through after checking her badge. In the meeting room, human leaders sat with glazed expressions as the Zolaxian leader spoke. "The installation of our equipment is purely for scientific exchange. Your people will benefit greatly from our advanced technology." Jack nodded along with the others. When Lisa entered with the coffee, he barely noticed her. "Your usual ambassador," Lisa said, placing a cup before him. She moved around the table, distributing cups to other key officials, adding a drop of Susan's solution to each one. The Zolaxian leader paused, watching her with suspicion. "What is this liquid?" "Just coffee," Lisa said with a smile. "It's a human tradition during long meetings. Would you like to try some?" The alien recoiled slightly. "No. Continue with your tradition." Jack took a sip of his coffee, then another. His eyes, previously unfocused, began to sharpen. He blinked several times and looked at the Zolaxian leader with new awareness. Across the table, other officials were experiencing similar effects. The French representative frowned, looking at her notes as if seeing them for the first time. The Chinese ambassador sat up straighter, a calculating look replacing his previous agreeable expression. "Perhaps," Jack said slowly, "we should review the details of these installations more thoroughly before proceeding." The Zolaxian leader's upper arms twitched. "That is unnecessary. We have already discussed the benefits." "Even so," said the British representative, stirring her coffee. "Standard protocols require full technical specifications and safety assessments." Around the table, human leaders began asking questions, requesting details, suggesting delays. The Zolaxians grew visibly frustrated. Lisa slipped out and returned to Susan's lab, where Peter was coordinating with his military contacts. "It worked," she announced. "They're coming out of it. The Zolaxians are losing control of the meeting." Susan looked up from her microscope. "I've learned something else. The Zolaxians have a reputation. I found references in the data they shared about other species. They're known as the cultivators across several star systems." "Cultivators?" Peter asked. "They don't conquer through war," Susan explained. "They cultivate species through biological manipulation. They've done this before many times." Lisa sat down heavily. "So this isn't just about Earth, it's their standard approach to adding planets to their collection." "But they didn't count on human biochemistry," Susan said, raising her coffee cup, "or our addiction to this beautiful bean juice." Peter's phone rang. He answered, listened, then smiled. That was Jack. "The meeting's been adjourned with no approvals given. He wants to meet us privately to discuss what we know." "We need to prepare," Lisa said. "The Zolaxians won't give up easily. They'll try something else now that their subtle approach is failing." Susan began filling small vials with her caffeine solution. "Then we better start brewing." Word spread quickly but quietly. Coffee shops across the city became busy with government workers, military personnel, and ordinary citizens. No one said why they suddenly needed extra caffeine, but knowing looks were exchanged over steaming cups. Jack Miller sat in a small diner 3 blocks from the UN building. His hand still shook slightly as the effects of the alien toxin continued to wear off. "I can't believe I was ready to give them access to our nuclear facilities," he said, staring into his coffee cup. It felt so reasonable at the time. Lisa, Peter, and Susan sat with him in the corner booth, speaking in low voices. "The toxin makes you trust them completely," Susan explained. "It blocks your ability to question their suggestions." Peter looked around the diner. Half the tables were filled with people from the diplomatic corps, all drinking coffee. "How long before the Zolaxians notice what's happening?" "They already suspect something," Jack said. Their leader, Zeth, asked why humans consume so much of this bitter black liquid during our morning meeting. I told him it's a cultural tradition we can't explain. Lisa leaned forward. "We need to organize a proper resistance before they try something more aggressive." "I've already started," Peter said. "Operation Morning Brew. Military personnel are being advised to increase caffeine intake as a new health recommendation. Coffee is being delivered to all government offices hourly." Susan pulled out her tablet. "I've been working on a more stable version of the antidote. Local pharmacists are helping produce it under the label of vitamin supplements. We're distributing to key personnel first." "What about the general public?" Jack asked. "Coffee shops," Lisa said simply. "We've quietly reached out to major coffee chains. They're running special promotions with stronger brews and discount prices. People are responding without even knowing why." Jack nodded. "Good. But the Zolaxians will notice the change in behavior soon. We need a strategy for when they do." Outside the diner window, a Zolaxian ship glided silently overhead. People on the street barely looked up anymore. The aliens had become a common sight over the past week. "They're watching public water supplies," Peter reported. "Our people have spotted them near reservoirs and treatment plants. I think they're planning to introduce their toxin into the water." "Can we stop them?" Jack asked. "We've increased security, but their technology is more advanced than ours," Peter admitted. "The best defense is to make the public resistant to the toxin." "Coffee alone won't be enough," Susan said. "I've been doing more research. The compound in their toxin is also blocked by certain tannins found in tea, theobromine in chocolate, and even some common food preservatives." Lisa's eyes widened. "So our normal diet gives us some natural resistance?" "Exactly," Susan said. "The things humans consume daily are mildly toxic to most species. Our bodies have adapted. The Zolaxians never expected a species to regularly consume substances that would be considered poisons on other worlds." Jack smiled for the first time in days. "So our morning coffee and chocolate bars are actually our defense system?" "That and soft drinks, energy drinks, tea," Susan confirmed. "Even some processed foods with certain preservatives help. The more we consume, the more resistant we become." Their planning was interrupted when Peter's phone buzzed. He checked the message and his face darkened. "The Zolaxians have called an emergency meeting of the Security Council. They're claiming there's a health crisis that requires their immediate intervention." Jack stood up. "They're making their move. I need to be there." "Take this." Susan handed him a small bottle. "New and improved antidote. Put a few drops in your coffee during the meeting. Share with anyone you trust." As Jack left, for the UN, Lisa, Peter, and Susan continued coordinating the resistance. Coffee shops around the city became impromptu command centers. Baristas, unaware of the full situation but sensing something important, brewed stronger coffee and made sure everyone who entered got their caffeine fix. At a busy cafe near Central Park, a barista named Joe noticed a Zolaxian watching from across the street. The alien seemed puzzled by the constant stream of humans entering and exiting with cups of coffee. "They really don't get us, do they?" Joe said to Peter, who had come to check on distribution of Susan's antidote. "No, they don't," Peter agreed. "They think we're simple and easily controlled." "Their mistake," Joe said, handing Peter a fresh espresso. At the UN, the Security Council meeting was tense. The Zolaxian leader, Zeth, stood before the gathered officials. "We have detected a biological contaminant in your atmosphere," Zeth announced. "It poses a significant risk to human health. We must act quickly to neutralize it." Jack sipped his coffee, now laced with Susan's improved antidote. "What exactly is this contaminant?" he asked. "It is complex," Zeth replied. "Your scientists..." Would not understand the details. You must trust our expertise. Of course, Jack said smoothly. But our protocols require full information before any large-scale intervention. Perhaps you could provide samples of this contaminant for our scientists to study? Zeth's forearms moved in frustration. There is no time for such procedures. We require immediate access to your water purification systems. Other council members, many of whom were drinking coffee or tea, began asking similar questions. The Zolaxians faced resistance where before they had found only compliance. Across the city, Lisa visited major food manufacturers, explaining the situation to executives who had been cleared and treated with the antidote. Production of caffeine-rich products increased. Chocolate companies rushed special editions to market. Energy drink manufacturers worked overtime. At a military base outside the city, Susan trained medical personnel to produce and distribute her antidote. Remember, she told them, anything with caffeine, theobromine, or certain tannins helps. Keep people consuming these regularly. Peter coordinated security around water treatment facilities. They'll try to force their way in soon, he told his team. We need to be ready. That evening, the four met again at Jack's apartment. The news was playing footage of Zolaxians inspecting food shipments at ports. They're getting desperate, Jack said. The Security Council denied their request. Too many officials have been treated with the antidote. They're losing control of the situation. So what will they do next? Lisa asked. The answer came sooner than expected. Peter's phone rang with an urgent alert. They're calling in reinforcements, he reported grimly. Our satellites have detected 3 large ships entering Earth's atmosphere. Whatever they're planning, they're done with the subtle approach. Then so are we, Jack said. It's time to take this fight public. People deserve to know what's happening. They looked out the window at the city lights. Above them, new stars appeared in the sky. Zolaxian ships positioning themselves over major population centers. The resistance had begun, but the real battle was just starting. The morning news showed Zolaxian ships hovering above every major city worldwide. People pointed and took pictures, not yet understanding the danger. Jack Miller stood before the United Nations General Assembly. Every seat was filled. World leaders, ambassadors and officials sipped from coffee cups as he spoke. The truth can no longer be hidden, Jack said firmly. The Zolaxians are not here as friends. They came to conquer us through biological manipulation. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Jack continued explaining about the blue wine and the mind-controlling toxin. He told them about the resistance, about coffee and chocolate becoming Earth's unexpected defense. They assumed we would be easy to control, he said. They didn't count on humanity's natural stubbornness or our morning beverages. In the back of the room, Lisa and Susan watched as understanding dawned on faces throughout the assembly. Peter stood near the door, coordinating security through his earpiece. Zeth, the Zolaxian leader, stormed into the chamber with 4 guards. These are lies, he shouted. We came in peace. Then explain this, Jack said, playing a recording on the large screen. It showed Zolaxians at a water treatment plant the night before, attempting to pour blue liquid into the water supply. They were stopped by armed guards who had been warned in advance. Zeth's skin changed color slightly, a sign of anger in Zolaxians. You primitive humans have no idea what you're rejecting. We offer advancement, protection, control, Jack interrupted. You offer control, and humanity refuses. The assembly erupted in applause. Many stood, coffee cups raised in an impromptu toast to resistance. Zeth's eyes narrowed. You have made a grave mistake. The methods we have used so far were meant to be gentle. We can be much less pleasant when required. With that threat, the Zolaxians left the chamber. Minutes later, reports started coming in from around the world. Zolaxian ships were releasing something into the atmosphere, a fine blue mist that descended over cities. At Susan's lab, the team gathered around monitors showing live feeds from various locations. They're trying airborne distribution of the toxin, Susan said, typing rapidly on her computer. But our tests show it's less effective this way. The concentration is too low to overcome natural resistance in people who regularly consume caffeine. Peter's phone buzzed constantly with updates. They're also attempting direct attacks on coffee production facilities and chocolate factories, he reported. They're targeting our sources of resistance. Lisa looked at a world map showing Zalaxian activities. They're getting desperate. This isn't their usual approach. The cultivators prefer subtle control, not open conflict. We need to get the word out even more widely, Jack said. Every human on Earth needs to know they should increase their caffeine intake. Within hours, an unlikely alliance formed. Coffee shop chains opened their doors for free coffee distribution. Soda companies donated truckloads of caffeinated drinks to emergency centers. Chocolate manufacturers handed out products on street corners. The message spread through every channel. Drink coffee, eat chocolate, stay sharp. In a downtown coffee shop, a barista named Kelly served a continuous line of customers. Strongest brew we've got, she told each person. Doctor's orders. A Zalaxian observer stood across the street, watching in confusion, as humans voluntarily consumed what looked to them like bitter poison. The alien took notes on a small device, clearly puzzled by human behavior. At a military command center, Peter coordinated defense efforts. We can't shoot down their ships, he told his team. Their technology is too advanced, but we can protect our food and water supplies. Soldiers were deployed to guard coffee plantations, chocolate factories, and bottling plants. These became the front lines in a war unlike any humanity had fought before. In Susan's lab, she and Lisa made a breakthrough. Look at this, Susan said excitedly. When we combine caffeine with theobromine from chocolate and certain tannins from tea, the protective effect multiplies. It's not just additive, it's exponential. Lisa examined the data. So a mocha with dark chocolate is better protection than coffee alone? Much better, Susan confirmed. And if we add green tea extract, better still. I'm working on a formula that combines all the protective elements in the optimal ratio. Jack entered the lab, looking tired but determined. The Zalaxians have issued an ultimatum. They're demanding Earth's surrender within 24 hours or they'll take measures that will make resistance impossible. They're bluffing, Peter said, joining them. If they had a foolproof method, they would have used it already. Maybe, Jack said. But we need a plan to end this, not just resist indefinitely. Lisa had been quiet, thinking. Now she looked up. I have an idea. The Zalaxians have studied human biology enough to create a toxin that works on us. But how much do we know about their biology? Susan caught on quickly. You're suggesting we create something that affects them? Exactly, Lisa said. They've shown they're vulnerable to certain compounds. When Zeth was offered coffee, he recoiled. Something about it repelled him. Chemical warfare? Jack asked, concerned. More like chemical defense, Lisa clarified. If we can create something that disrupts their coordination or communication without harming them, we might force them to retreat. Susan was already pulling up data on her computer. Based on their skin reaction to our atmosphere and their aversion to certain Earth substances, I might be able to create a compound that would be harmless to us, but disruptive to them. How long would it take? Peter asked. With proper resources, maybe 48 hours, Susan said. But we don't have that long. Yes, we do, Jack said firmly. I'm going to negotiate with Zeth. Buy us time. That's too dangerous, Lisa protested. They know you've been leading the resistance. Jack smiled grimly. That's exactly why I have to go. They'll believe I'm coming to discuss surrender terms. As Jack left for the meeting with the Zalaxians, Susan and Lisa worked frantically in the lab. Peter coordinated with military and civilian forces, preparing for whatever came next. Outside, blue mist continued to fall from Zalaxian ships, but on the streets below, humans walked with coffee cups in hand, chocolate bars in pockets, determined expressions on their faces. The Zalaxians had underestimated humanity's resistance. But the final confrontation was still to come. Jack Miller walked alone into the Zalaxian ship. The inside was beautiful in a strange way. Smooth blue walls that seemed to glow from within, air that smelled faintly sweet. Two guards led him to a large room where Zeth waited. "Ambassador Miller," Zeth said, forearms moving in a complex pattern. "You come to discuss surrender terms?" "I come to talk," Jack said carefully. "This conflict benefits no one." Zeth moved closer. "Your resistance is unprecedented. In thousands of years, no species has rejected our guidance." "We're not rejecting guidance," Jack replied. "We're rejecting control. There's a difference." Meanwhile, in Susan's lab, Lisa and Susan worked frantically. They had analyzed samples of air from near the Zolaxian ships, capturing trace elements from the aliens themselves. "Their biochemistry is fascinating," Susan said, looking through a microscope. "They process oxygen differently than we do, and their nervous system relies on compounds similar to our neurotransmitters, but with key differences." Lisa mixed chemicals in a large beaker. "So this combination should disrupt their neural pathways temporarily?" "In theory," Susan said. "The mix of caffeine, theobromine, and several compounds from tea and spices should create a neurological storm in their systems. For us, it would just be a strong stimulant. For them, brain fog," Lisa finished, "like they tried to do to us." Peter entered the lab carrying a small device. "This is ready. We can aerosolize the compound and release it inside their ships if we can get close enough." "Jack will get us close," Lisa said. "He just needs to keep Zeth talking long enough." On the Zolaxian ship, Jack sat across from Zeth at a small table. A blue liquid was offered to him. "Your wine?" Jack asked with a small smile. "No, thank you. I brought my own drink." He placed a thermos on the table. "Coffee. Would you like to try it? To understand what you're up against?" Zeth recoiled slightly. "That bitter poison you consume?" "No. I would not." "It's not poison to us," Jack explained. "Humans have evolved alongside these plants. What seems toxic to you is pleasure to us." "A primitive pleasure," Zeth said dismissively. "Once you accept our guidance, we will help you move beyond such crude stimulants." Jack took a sip of his coffee. "That's the fundamental misunderstanding between us. We don't want to move beyond this. Our differences, our strange tastes, our stubborn habits, they're what make us human." As Jack kept Zeth talking, Peter, Lisa, and Susan approached the Zolaxian ship in a small helicopter. Military forces created a distraction on the other side of the ship, drawing attention away from them. "We're in position," Peter said into his radio. "Jack, we need access to the ship's ventilation system." Inside, Jack heard the message through his hidden earpiece. He needed to get Zeth to reveal where the air intake was located. "Your ship is remarkable," Jack said. "The air is so clean. How do you filter it?" Zeth, pleased by the apparent interest, pointed to a subtle pattern on the wall. "Our filtration system draws air from the exterior and purifies it there." Jack nodded, relaying the information through a subtle whisper into his hidden microphone. Outside, Peter maneuvered the helicopter closer to the spot Jack had identified. Lisa prepared the device containing Susan's compound. "Are you sure this won't harm them permanently?" Lisa asked. "Positive," Susan replied. "It will disrupt their neural pathways for a few hours at most. Enough to confuse them, not enough to cause lasting damage." Lisa activated the device, which released a fine mist near the ship's air intake. The specially designed compound was sucked into the Zolaxian ventilation system. Inside, Jack noticed a slight change in the air, a faint smell like coffee and chocolate mixed with spices. Zeth didn't seem to notice at first. "Your final chance, Ambassador," Zeth was saying. "Accept our guidance willingly, or we will—" He stopped suddenly, blinking his large eyes rapidly. "We will—" He seemed to lose his train of thought. Throughout, the ship Zolaxians began to show signs of confusion. Guards wobbled on their feet. Communications officers stared at their screens in bewilderment. "What have you done?" Zeth asked, his forearms moving in uncoordinated patterns. "Given you a taste of your own medicine," Jack said, standing up. "A special human blend. Don't worry, the effects are temporary, just like your blue wine would have been for us." Zeth tried to call for guards, but his commands came out jumbled. The ship's lights flickered as confused operators pressed incorrect controls. Jack walked calmly to the ship's communication center, where dazed Zolaxians offered no resistance. He activated the system that connected to the other Zolaxian ships. "This is Ambassador Jack Miller of Earth," he announced. "Your command ship has been compromised. Your leader is temporarily unable to coordinate actions. We have the ability to do the same to all your vessels." He paused, letting the message sink in. "We don't want conflict. Leave our atmosphere now, and we can discuss peaceful relations in the future, as equals, not as controllers and controlled." Across the world, Zolaxian ships began to show signs of confusion. Some drifted aimlessly. Others began slowly ascending back toward space. In the command ship, Zeth struggled to maintain dignity despite his obvious disorientation. "This is unprecedented," he managed to say. "No species has ever countered our methods." "Consider it a learning experience," Jack said. "Humans don't make good subjects, but we might make good allies, if you're willing to relate to us honestly." 3 hours later, Jack, Lisa, Peter, and Susan stood on the roof of the UN building, watching as the last Zolaxian ships disappeared into the sky. "They've established orbit around the moon," Peter reported, checking his phone. "Our satellites are tracking them. No signs of immediate return." "Will they come back?" Lisa asked. "Eventually," Jack said. "But next time they'll come as diplomats, not conquerors." Zeth was actually quite impressed once the initial effects of Susan's compound wore off. Susan sipped her coffee. "I still can't believe it worked so perfectly. The Zolaxians' neural pathways were even more susceptible to our compound than I expected." "Poetic justice," Peter said with a smile. "They tried to drug our wine, but our coffee saved the day." Jack looked at the sky where the alien ships had been. Zeth said something interesting before he left. He said they'll need to reclassify Earth in their databases. "We're no longer listed as a potential cultivar species. We're now classified as a naturally toxic, resistant world." Lisa laughed. "All because we like our morning coffee and chocolate a little too much." "The word will spread through their networks," Jack said. "Earth is the planet where the inhabitants voluntarily consume compounds that would be considered chemical warfare on other worlds, just to start their day." The four friends raised their coffee cups in a toast as the sun rose over the city. Around them, coffee shops were opening. People were starting their day with their favorite caffeinated beverages, unaware that these everyday habits had just saved humanity from alien domination. "To humanity," Jack said. "The species that drinks the strongest stuff in the galaxy for breakfast." "And the only species," Susan added with a grin, "whose survival plan in an alien invasion is more coffee, please." They laughed together as their cups clinked. Above them, the morning sky was clear of alien ships and the smell of coffee drifted up from the awakening city below.